In the middle of the 14th century, Europe was a world of dense connections. Trade routes stretched from the ports of the Mediterranean to the markets of northern England. Cities grew, commerce thrived, and across the continent, the church stood at the center of daily life, providing meaning, order, and the promise of salvation. It was, by many measures, a civilization at the height of its medieval confidence. What it did not know, could not know, was that something was already moving toward it from the east. The disease that would come to be known as the Black Death likely first emerged among rodent populations in the grasslands of Central Asia, possibly in the region of modern Kyrgyzstan, sometime during the 1330s or 1340s. The bacterium Yersinia pestis had existed in animal reservoirs for centuries, but the expansion of Mongol trade networks stretching from China to the Black Sea created conditions for something unprecedented. Infected fleas, carried by rats, moved with the caravans, silently, without warning. By 1346, the plague had reached the Crimean Peninsula on the northern shore of the Black Sea. At the fortified trading port of Kaffa, forces of the Mongol Golden Horde were besieging the city's Genoese inhabitants when the plague struck their own army. Soldiers died in large numbers. According to contemporary accounts, Mongol commanders made a fateful decision. They loaded plague-ridden corpses onto catapults and hurled them over the city walls. Whether this directly spread infection to those inside remains debated by historians, but panic took hold, and soon the Genoese began to flee by sea. In October 1347, a fleet of Genoese trading galleys arrived at the harbor of Messina, on the northeastern tip of Sicily. The ships had come from the Black Sea ports. When dock workers approached, what they found alarmed them deeply. The sailors aboard were dying, or already dead. Their bodies bore swollen, blackened growths at the neck, the armpit, and the groin. Sicilian port officials ordered the fleet to leave immediately, but the order came too late. The plague had already stepped ashore. From Sicily, the plague moved swiftly onto the Italian mainland. By the end of 1347, it had reached Genoa, Venice, and Pisa, three of the most powerful trading cities in the known world. These were precisely the places most interconnected with the rest of Europe, and precisely the places least capable of sealing themselves off. Dense urban populations, crowded port districts, and constant movement of people and goods created ideal conditions for rapid spread. The Italian peninsula became the first great theater of catastrophe. Florence was struck in the spring of 1348. The city, one of the wealthiest and most cultured in Europe, was overwhelmed within months. Contemporary witnesses describe streets littered with the dead, families abandoning one another, and a complete breakdown of civic and moral order. Estimates suggest the city lost between half and two-thirds of its population in a single year. Among those who witnessed the devastation was a young Florentine writer who would later set his famous collection of tales against the backdrop of the catastrophe, producing one of the most vivid first-hand accounts of the plague's human cost ever written. The plague did not pause at the Alps. By the middle of 1348, it had reached southern France and the Iberian Peninsula. Marseille and Barcelona fell quickly. From the ports it moved inland, along river valleys, along the roads used by merchants and pilgrims. Each market town it entered became a new point of dispersal. No natural barrier slowed it for long. What followed, across France and Spain, mirrored what had already unfolded in Italy. mass death, the collapse of trade, and the fracturing of institutions that had seemed immovable. In 1348, the plague reached Avignon, at that time the seat of the papacy. For the Church, this posed a profound challenge. Pope Clement VI issued 2 directives, one attempting to protect Jewish communities from the violence already erupting across the continent, and another granting spiritual indulgences to all who died of the plague. His personal physician advised him to sit between 2 large fires, believing that heat would cleanse the corrupted air believed responsible for the disease. But thousands in the city did not. The plague showed no deference to spiritual authority, a fact that did not go unnoticed by those watching. For many ordinary people, the plague resisted every human explanation. In the absence of understanding, spiritual desperation took hold. From 1348 onward, groups of flagellants began moving through the towns of Germany and the Low Countries. Dressed in white robes marked with red crosses, they traveled in processions, publicly beating themselves with leather straps. They believed that through extreme bodily suffering, they could atone for humanity's sins and persuade God to end the catastrophe. Church authorities grew increasingly alarmed. These movements operated outside clerical control, drew enormous crowds, and threatened established order. Pope Clement VI eventually condemned them. As the plague spread and no explanation proved adequate, a deadly accusation took root. Rumors circulated that Jewish communities had deliberately poisoned the wells. The charge was entirely without basis. Pope Clement VI stated clearly that Jewish people were dying from the plague, just as Christians were, and that the accusation was false. But reason gave way to violence. Across France, the Holy Roman Empire, and the Rhineland, Jewish communities were attacked, burned, and expelled. In Strasbourg, Mainz, Cologne, and dozens of other cities, entire populations were massacred or driven out. The Black Death did not create this hatred, but it gave it lethal momentum. In the summer of 1348, the plague came to England, landing at the port of Weymouth on the southern coast. It spread northward with frightening speed, through Bristol, then London, then onward into Wales, and the north by 1349. Contemporary chronicles describe a country in shock. Church bells rang almost without ceasing. Estimates of English mortality range from 40 to 50% of the total population. Villages lost half their inhabitants. Some were abandoned entirely. The plague reached into every corner of the English countryside, sparing no region and no rank. Across Europe, learned physicians struggled to understand what they were facing. Medieval medicine, grounded in ancient Greek theory, attributed disease to imbalances in the body's humors and to corrupted air, known as miasma. Physicians prescribed bloodletting, herbal treatments, aromatic fumigations, and dietary changes. None of it worked. The plague killed the learned and the ignorant alike. This near total failure of medical authority carried its own consequences. Slowly, quietly, confidence in scholastic learning and the rational systems of the church-educated elite began to erode. For many, the crisis of the body had become a crisis of knowledge itself. By 1349, the plague had crossed the North Sea. A vessel carrying English wool arrived at the Norwegian port of Bergen, and with it came the infection. From Bergen, the disease moved south, through Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. Scandinavian societies, many of them rural and dispersed, were devastated. Entire farming communities collapsed. Some Norwegian settlements were abandoned for generations. The distant north offered no natural refuge. The same networks of commerce that carried timber, wool, and grain now carried death to the edges of the known world. By 1350 to 1351, the plague had reached Poland and the western edges of Russia, completing its sweep of nearly all of Europe. Not every place fell equally. Several cities and regions, including parts of Poland and the Duchy of Milan, attempted to enforce strict containment measures, closing city gates, restricting the movement of travelers, isolating the sick from the healthy. These early forms of quarantine met with partial success. They could not stop the plague entirely, but they reduced its impact in some cases. The underlying principle that physical separation could limit contagion was being learned, however imperfectly, in real time. Throughout this period, the Catholic Church suffered losses from which it would never fully recover. An enormous proportion of the clergy died. Priests, monks, and friars, who had stayed close to the dying as their vocation demanded. To fill the void, bishops ordained replacements rapidly, with minimal training or scrutiny. Parish communities found themselves led by men ill-prepared for the role. The damage was not immediate or total, but it was real. For communities that had long looked to the Church for guidance, this visible institutional failure left a mark that would take generations to fully surface. Outside the cities, the countryside had been transformed. Entire villages had lost half their inhabitants. Fields lay abandoned. Livestock wandered without owners. For the surviving peasantry, the catastrophe produced something wholly unexpected. Leverage. Labor was scarce. Lords who had once commanded near absolute power over their serfs now found themselves competing for workers. Wages began to rise. Long-standing obligations were challenged, and in some places, refused. The rigid hierarchy of feudal society, so central to the medieval world, had been struck at its foundation. The surviving peasant was no longer quite so powerless. By 1353, the acute first wave of the Black Death had largely subsided across most of Europe. The silence it left behind was itself a kind of shock. Streets of empty houses, uncultivated land stretching to the horizon, graveyards filled beyond capacity. Contemporary writers struggled to find language equal to what had happened. One widely traveled Arabic scholar and chronicler who had moved through plague-affected regions across North Africa and the Levant recorded his observations with careful precision, noting the scale of the dead in city after city. The numbers, he wrote, were beyond counting. The cultural response to the plague was deep and lasting. Across Europe, a new preoccupation with death entered art, architecture, and literature. The image known as the Danse Macabre, the dance of death, appeared on church walls and in manuscript illustrations, a procession in which death leads figures of every rank and station, pope and peasant alike, toward an equal end. It was a stark inversion of the social order. In death, the hierarchies of the living world dissolved entirely. This imagery reflected a fundamentally transformed relationship between European culture and mortality, one that would shape artistic and philosophical thought for generations to come. The Black Death did not end with its first wave. The plague returned in 1361, in 1369, and at intervals through the remainder of the 14th century and beyond. Europe's total population, estimated at 70 to 75 million before 1347, would not recover to pre-plague levels for approximately 150 years. The labor shortages that began in the 1350s contributed directly to conditions that produced major peasant uprisings across the continent, including the English Peasants' Revolt of 1381. The old feudal structures did not fall overnight, but the Black Death had cut through their foundations in ways that could not be undone. The Black Death remains, across 7 centuries, the single most lethal pandemic in recorded European history. In the space of 6 years, it killed between 1/3 and 1/2 of the continent's population. It damaged the church, accelerated the end of feudalism, reshaped the labor market, transformed culture, and forced the first experiments with what we would now recognize as public health policy. It did not create a new world by itself, but it removed so much of the old one that what came after, the social upheavals, the intellectual revolutions, the gradual dissolution of medieval certainties, became possible in ways they had not been before. What the plague left behind was not only grief and ruin, it was, in the long view of history, the space in which a different Europe could begin. And that's it. Thank you for watching. The next story is waiting for you right here. Subscribe so you're always the first to know. Thanks for being part of this story. See you in the next one.